Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Our Stony Acres. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about how to harden your transplants before you put them out in the garden. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we get started, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that notification bell so that you get notice every time we release new videos. And do me a favor, we are new to Instagram, and I would love it if you would click on the link down in the description and join us over on Instagram as well, okay? All right, so we had some questions this week from some of our viewers about how to harden your transplants, and so I thought that this would be a good opportunity. I've got a tray that are ready to go out in the garden, and so I thought we would chat a little bit about how and why you should be hardening your transplants before you put them out in the garden, okay? So let me put these down. So there is this term in gardening called hardening off, and basically is what it means is it means to acclimate your plants to the garden conditions that are outside before you transplant them out. So let's think about this for a minute. Your transplants have been indoors growing for probably 6 to 8 weeks. They've had the perfect amount of sunlight from your grow lights. They've been watered whenever they need it. They've been fertilized. The temperature's probably been somewhere around 65 to 70 degrees. There's no wind. There's no harsh temperature fluctuations. There's no UV light coming from the sun. And so they're really quite pampered. And if you were to take those transplants and stick them out in the garden, right from indoors to outdoors, there's going to be a significant amount of what we call transplant shock. And we want to avoid that because it can often actually kill your plants. And so if you don't harden your plants off first and get them acclimated to the garden environment, there's a really good chance you're going to kill them. And even if you don't kill them, the transplant shock will set them back for weeks and really kind of damage the production and what you're going to get out of your plants. So let's talk about how we harden off. Now, I recognize that what I'm going to tell you is the ideal way to harden off your plants. And most of us work and we're not home during the day, and so we're not going to be able to be perfect about this. But let me tell you the ideal, and then you guys do your best to adapt your hardening off to your situation, okay? So first thing we want to do is we want to get those plants outside for about 2 hours on day one, okay? And we're going to try and spread this out over about 7 to 10 days is the hardening off process. So on day one, we're going to get them outside for probably 2 to 3 hours somewhere shady. So we don't want them to be in the sun. We want them to be in the shade of a tree or, you know, the side of a house or something where they're going to be in the shade. 2 to 3 hours. The next day, we're going to increase that to maybe 3 to 5 hours of shade time, okay? Day 3, we're going to bump that up again to maybe 5 to 7 hours of shade time, all right? Then on day 4, we're going to bump the total time that they spend outside up to about 8 hours, but we're going to introduce maybe 1 or 2 hours of time in the actual sunlight. And it's a good idea to maybe just put them out in the garden where they're actually going to be, but give them a couple of hours out in the sun. Then the next day, we're going to do more sun time. So we'll go maybe 4 hours in the shade and 4 hours in the sun. And then the next day, we'll increase our sun time again. And the next day, maybe we'll stretch it out to 10 hours total, and a little more time in the sun, until after about 7 to 10 days, we are leaving them out in the sun where they're going to be planted for that entire time. And as what this does for your plants is it acclimates them to those conditions out in the garden so that they're not going from San Diego, California to northern Montana immediately, okay? That's what it would be like if we were talking about people. So we want to slowly integrate them into that garden environment and give them a time to adjust and adapt and change their structure and their thinking so that they are able to then be transplanted successfully out into the garden. So again, I recognize that it's going to be hard to be perfect with this, so do your very best. But the key is, no matter what you do need to do some type of hardening off. And so do your very best to get them out. Maybe start on a weekend when you can, do the first few hours, the first few rotations on a weekend, and then stretch it out over the week, and then kind of do the final stuff on the next weekend or something like that. But the idea is to just do your best to slowly introduce those transplants to the garden. And I think you should do that for the transplants that you've been growing yourself But I also think you should do the same thing for transplants that you buy from a nursery or your garden center or whatever, because you have no idea what those nursery bought plants have been through. They may have just been delivered that day and come straight from the greenhouse, and so they haven't had any time to harden as well. So my advice is your own transplants, harden them 7 to 10 days, and then your store-bought transplants as well. Now, you can be a little bit more lenient in the spring because weather conditions will be a little cooler and a little easier for the plants to adapt to, and so maybe you do 7 days hardening off in the spring. But in the summertime, when things are hotter and a little more harsh, you may actually have to stretch that out to that full 10 days to give them that opportunity just to adapt and adjust. And then make sure that you water. So you don't put them dry out in the garden and then expect them to do well. You need to water them first and make sure that you're caring for them and taking care of them. And then when you bring them in at night, you're going to put them right back under your grow lights and treat them as you would for the time that they're indoors as well. Okay, so that is hardening off, and it is a step that you do not want to skip. It's important for the health of your plants, and like I say, depending on the type of plant, you literally could kill your plants if you don't harden them off before you put them out in the garden. So make sure that you do that. All right? Okay, so that is all I have for this week. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And this video was actually a question that a couple of my viewers asked. And so if you have questions that you would like me to answer in your garden, please leave those down in the comments below and I'll consider putting those in a future video. One other thing that I wanted to mention to you is I do have a course on starting your own seedlings, and we also cover hardening off in that course. That course is called Seed Starting Simplified, and that is a course that you can buy on our website, and there's a link down in the description where you can go buy that. That's a great way to support our channel and help us to continue giving you guys this free content as well. So that link is down below. Okay, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Go follow us on Instagram, links down below. And again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And everybody have a fantastic week. Happy gardening.